Hey! Hey everyone, Andrew here, bringing you another video review, and today we're going to be doing Superman Secret Origins. Take a look at this comic cover right here. Now, Superman Secret Origins is exactly how it sounds. It's another origin story for Superman, among many of the origin stories that Superman has. However, in the grand scheme of things for origin stories, this actually serves a big purpose. What would that be? Fixing all the problems with all of Superman's other origin stories. Confused? Allow me to explain. Superman, in the modern continuity, has a few origin stories. The primary of these would be Superman Man of Steel and the Birthright series. Now, after the Crisis on Infinite Earths, like most major DC superheroes, Superman's origin story was retold in the modern continuity and some stuff was rebooted. And that story would be the Man of Steel series. Now, the Man of Steel series was a great series that stayed very loyal to much of Superman's original origins. However, it also changed a lot of things too. For example, Superman was never Superboy. Actually, he never even had his powers when he was a kid. In addition to that, he was the only Kryptonian. No Krypto, no Supergirl, just Superman. The Legion of Superheroes never played a part in Superman's childhood, and Lex Luthor wasn't a scientist, a businessman. So, there were some changes, some major changes, and not all fans and writers liked these changes. However, the Man of Steel series was successful and it saved the origin stories for Superman for quite some time. However, eventually a story came out called Superman Birthright, and Superman Birthright was a modern take on Superman's origins, changing a few things here and there, and actually tried to make it fit a little bit better with the Smallville TV show that was out. Now, originally this wasn't supposed to be a true origin story for Superman, just kind of a more modern take of it. However, its popularity resonated with fans and writers alike that it kind of did become an origin story, and even references were made to it in later stories. Now, I don't know exactly how good Birthright is, and I can't really comment on it too much. The reason being is I never read it, nor do I ever intend on reading it. It's not because I wouldn't want to, it's just because there's no need for it, because we have this. But because there is so many Superman origins, what exactly is the true Superman origin? They kind of conflict with each other. It really confuses fans and writers, and just in general it's confusing. That's why Superman Secret Origins came out. This is supposed to be the definitive Superman origin story for the modern Superman, taking the best parts from each origin story and combining them together, bringing Superman into a new age without a confusing backstory. Whether or not it pulled this off and became, in theory, the best origin story, well, you're just going to have to see. Let's get into story. Now, this is an origin story for Superman, so a lot of it you probably already know. But this is slightly different from the other origin stories because it's taken from the perspective of Clark Kent. And it starts off first in Smallville, and actually a few of the issues are set in Smallville. It deals with Clark learning about his powers and hiding it from his friends and eventually becoming Superboy. And they handle Superboy interestingly because the public never knows Superboy exists. There's rumors of him being a guardian angel boy, but they never actually spot Superboy. So, they kind of did a good job at dealing with that. Superboy existing, but the public never really knew about him. Very interesting. Kind of dealing with the whole Man of Steel aspect of Superboy never being around, but at the same time kind of throw back to having Superboy actually around. The Legion of Superheroes also play a part early on in the series, and Lex Luthor shows up in Smallville as his actual birthplace. Pretty interesting. We then move on to Metropolis. Clark becoming Superman, dealing with Lex Luthor, meeting up with Perry White, Jimmy Olsen, Lois Lane, and dealing with some enemies like Metallo and Parasite. And that's the basic gist. Like I said, this is an origin story for Superman. In all extensive purposes, it's similar to all the other origin stories. It hits bases on him going to Earth, growing up, and becoming Superman, fighting against most of his major rogues. It's a standard origin story for Superman. However, it does take all pieces from various different origins of Superman. You see a bit of Man of Steel in this. You see a bit of Silver Age in this. You see a bit of the animated series. You see a bit of the movies. It's quite interesting how much of each bit of Superman's origin from all different kinds of media is actually put in this. Now, there were some changes to the actual characters in this in comparison to continuity. For example, Lex Luthor was never bloated and overweight and actually had hair. When Clark first went to Metropolis, Lex was thin, in shape, and bald. So that kind of just destroys the whole stuff with Lex in the past. There were some other changes too, like Metallo's origin being part of the army rather than just being a thug, and the Parasite's origin also. But for the most part, it's good stuff, and it's welcome changes that actually work well with the Superman mythos. Let's get into the good, the bad, and whether or not you should get it. Good. Well, let's start things off with the art. The art is beautiful. Some of the best Superman art, bar none. You see some of this art in the New Krypton series and also with the Brainiac series, and it's just great. The way they make Superman look like he did in the movies with Christopher Reeve, but at the same time keeping that comic book feel, and everyone just looks really good. The art is fantastic. And they did a good job at consolidating all the different origin stories for Superman. I like how they brought in some of his enemies, although some of them I wish did show up, like Bizarro doesn't show up, but whatever, I'll let it slide. But I like how they consolidated all his origin stories and made them all fit and did a very good job of it. And it gave kind of a fresh face for all the characters, too. The writing was great. All the characters felt true to form, and everything fell into place very uniformly and overall worked out very well. Bad. Well, the first bad is that this is very standard for Superman origin. It feels as though they were just taking parts from each origin story and putting it together. It doesn't do anything daring or new like any of the other origins, which, say what you want about, say, the Man of Steel series, but it stepped itself outside of the shadow of the other Superman origins back in the Silver and the Bronze Age, and did different stuff. This didn't feel so different. It felt so true to form, the other origins, that it kind of just felt the same. It would have been nice if Jeff Johns went out of the box and kind of introduced some other aspects. But at the same time, this wasn't supposed to be a full, extensive origin story for Superman, just to clean up all the problems with the others. That's one bad. Second bad is, I would have liked it if it was a little bit longer. I mean, at the end of the book, you see one of the possible covers for one of the issues. I think it was issue 6. And it shows Bizarro on it. And like I said, I would have liked Bizarro to show up. Maybe throw an early version of Brainiac, seeing that there's been tons of Brainiac versions. How about the Mentalist Brainiac that was actually from Earth? That would have been cool. So it would have been nice if they actually put a little bit more into this. In addition to that, this starts off right when Clark is a kid. You don't get to see any of the ship coming to Earth and all that stuff. Not that we need to, but it still would have been nice to see the more updated Jor-El and Lara, the parents of Superman, and the destruction of Krypton. But at the same time, like I said, it was probably for the better that they didn't, because it would have taken up more time and space. But it still would have been nice to see a little bit of it. Just a little bit. On a whole, whether or not you should get it. Well, this is how I have to say this. Although the Man of Steel series will always keep a nice place in my heart, I have to admit, Secret Origins is the best of the Superman origin stories. It doesn't necessarily fully replace Man of Steel or Birthright, although I shouldn't really comment on that because I did not read Birthright, but this only adds to it. Similar to the Green Lantern Secret Origins, it only adds to Green Lantern Emerald Dawn. There are changes, mind you, but for the most part, it's just adding to the Superman mythos and cleaning up some of the parts that were a mess. If you have not picked up a Superman origin, this is the origin you should go with. It's great, it's well done, the art looks great, the writing is great. It's not quite as daring as I would have liked it to be, and it doesn't quite have as much material as I would like it to have, but for the most part, it's well done, and I absolutely enjoyed this. I read it all in one sitting, and it was a great read. I do recommend it. It's a good Superman story, and I think everyone out there who wants a definitive origin story for Superman will find it in this. So with that said, Superman Secret Origin. Go pick it up in stores today. This is Andrew saying peace out for now.